Well, Michael Ben-Gad is Professor of Economics at City University of London. He joins us now. Prof, thanks so much for joining us. You know, this war has cost Israel an estimated $16 billion already, and yet we're seeing this rebound. Why is it happening?
Well, first, if I may correct the figures that you cited, those are annualized numbers. The quarter-to-quarter changes were not nearly as drastic. Neither was the drop in the last quarter of 2023, and the increase 14%. Again, that's an annualized figure. Overall, the economy has reached, it's still, compared to a year ago, it's a little over 1% smaller than it was a year ago. So we haven't completely recovered from the war, but the trend is definitely upwards. A lot of this has to do with the resilience of the high-tech industry. That's a big factor in Israel's success. Israel remains relatively one of the richest countries in the world, despite everything. But there are, of course, problems. I should also mention in the positive side of the ledger, the Bank of Israel was very effective at stabilizing the economy in the immediate aftermath of the attack of the 7th of October. There was an announcement to sell about $30 billion worth of reserves. In the end, it was only $8 billion that was necessary in order to stabilize the shekel. The shekel has completely recovered. So those are the good things. On the negative side, the budget deficit is going to be at least 7% of GDP this year, which is a lot for a country like ours. And, you know, we still have various issues in terms of how the government allocates its budget, not just in terms of military expenditure, but also in terms of welfare payments to various members of the coalition.
The longer this war continues, will it require different spending decisions from the Israeli government?
Well, that's already been taken into account to some degree. I think there's been a rethink in terms of the defense needs. It's very clear that there was a certain complacency. There was a sense that perhaps we didn't need to spend so much on defense. So now there's a bit of an argument about how much extra, but it's clearly going to be extra, even if the war were to stop tomorrow. It's become clear that our neighbors, or I should say the hostile neighbors, are perhaps stronger than we anticipated. And we're going to have to allocate more money and more human resources as well. So, for example, we're bringing back conscription was down from 36 months for men down to 32. It's going back to 36. Reservists will have to spend more time in the military over the course of a year. That has an effect on the economy as well, because those people are not engaged in productive work.
Yeah, I noticed that, I think it was just today, Israel's talking about support for small businesses, because many people who run those businesses are now basically on the front line. The other interesting factor is this push. We've seen it from Turkey, disinvesting from Israel, and I think it's the fourth largest trading partner. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of support for Israel. If we look at the sale of Israeli bonds, they have gone up quite significantly. Even I've been reading US states are actually buying Israeli bonds. So if we look at its relationship with its trading partners, do you see it continuing to enjoy support from its friends?
Look, in the end, it's not about friendship. This is about business. If Israel has things that are useful for the world, and we do sell a lot of capital goods, people will buy them. I don't expect the effect of sanctions to be very, very severe. I mean, there are places that are trying to boycott and things like that. But we've lived with that for the last 76 years. This is nothing new. In the end, we've been able to build industries that can cope with that. So I'm somewhat less concerned. I'm more concerned about the sort of the effect. One of the sort of the effects of the attack was it revealed sort of very strange things about Israel in general. We have a public sector that is not necessarily completely competent, especially the civilian sector. I mean, the defense has more or less recovered. At the same time, the civil society is extremely resilient. A lot of the welfare needs of the people who have lost their homes and are still displaced both in the north and the south by fighting are being met not by the government but by private charities and civil society. And that's kind of unusual. That's a sort of and I think in the long run, that's actually a sign of a society that will recover.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us, Professor Michael Ben-Gad of City University in London.